Okay, good morning everyone, and Chazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Perashat Lech Lecha. Today's class is for the Hatzlacha of all of Am Yisrael, Bezrat Hashem, Besorot Tovot, and protection for our soldiers. Of course, for the hostages, we should hear good news for everybody very soon. Amen. My friends, Perashat Lech Lecha, here we go. As we are, of course, going deep into the Orah Hayim HaKadosh. And today I'd like to study with you how the Orah Hayim understands this very, very interesting episode of Avraham and Sarah, and saying to everyone that she's his sister. Okay? If you're familiar with what I'm talking about, let's read the Pesukim quickly. And actually, I want to compare and contrast because this is not the first time that it happens. It happens here, and it happens again later with Avimelech. So let us read, let's compare, and then let's see what the Orah Hayim has to say. Vahi ra'av ba'aretz, Avraham, when he gets to Israel, there was famine, okay? In Israel, he was hoping to get blessing. And by the way, this is a test, that sometimes in life, you're going to do what God tells you to, and when you go to the promised land, it's not going to be so promising, okay? And you get there, and there's no food. It's famine. It's difficult. So what do? You know, it would have been easy for Avraham to say, all right, God, I'm out. You don't know what you're talking about. Obviously, it's a fake religion. I'm going to stop doing what I've committed to do. Avraham doesn't do any of that. He doesn't point a finger. He doesn't complain to God. He finds a solution. He stays committed to his religion, to his God. Well, let us see what happens. Vahira av ba'aretz, there's a famine. Vayered Avram Misraima. He goes down to Egypt just to temporarily live there because there's a heavy famine. And as he got closer, Lavo Mitzrayima, as he got closer to Egypt, Vayomer El Sarai Ishto, he tells his wife, Hine nayadati ki isha yefa mare'at. My wife, I see how beautiful you are. What a nice thing that every wife would love to hear from her husband daily, right? I see how beautiful you are. But what he says next, no wife wants to hear from her husband ever. He says, when the Egyptians see you, they're going to think you're my wife. They're going to kill me and take you. Which is amazing. Why would they kill Avraham? Just take Sarah. Right? Why would they kill him? You want Sarah, just take her. But I can't take Sarah. It's immoral to take a wife who's married. It's adultery. So the solution is you kill a man, right? That's not immoral. That's not illegal, right? You kill a guy, that's fine. You kill a guy, no problem, right? Okay, look at the backwards values, my friends, still existing till today. Okay, so he says, I'm afraid they're going to kill me if they find out that you're my wife. Imrina ahotiat, so please say that you are my sister. Lema'an yitavli ba'avurech, so that I could receive good. V'hayita nafshi begalech, and that I could live. Well, Vahiki bo Avraham Misraima, as they got to Egypt, the Egyptians saw her, that she was beautiful, and Vayeru oto asarei Paro, the officials of Paro saw her. V'halelu ota. They lauded her to Paro, and they told Paro about her. Well, Batukah Yisha bet Paro, and she was taken. Sarah is now taken to Paro's palace. And of course, to Avraham, they gave a lot of good stuff. Sheep and donkeys and servants and maidservants and atonot, gemalim, camels, right? Okay, donkeys, everything. Avraham now is a rich man. Vainaga Hashem et Paro, God comes and strikes Paro with big blows overnight, right? Al devar Sarai eshet Avraham, over what he did to Sarah. Vaikra Paro de Avraham, Paro calls over Avraham and he says, hey, what'd you do this to me for? Why didn't you tell me she's your wife? Lama lo igata ki shechahi. Lama amarta ahoti. And why'd you say she's your sister? Again, notice it sounds very repetitive. And because you said that, I took her as a wife. And therefore, here's your wife, take her and go. Paro gave him men and they escorted him out of the country. Okay? This is the end of the episode. Very interesting episode. where Avraham devises this plan with his wife that she's going to make believe she's his sister so they don't kill him. And there are many questions over here. But just quickly, if we compare it to the story that we read later in chapter 20, very similar story. This is chapter 12. Chapter 20, similar story. They go to Gerar, okay? And he says again about his wife, that she's his sister. And Avimelech is interested, the king. So he takes Sarah, and God comes to Avimelech overnight, and he says, don't you dare touch her, she's married. And Avimelech says, I didn't know, I didn't do anything. I thought she was free. I thought she was vacant. And God says, don't worry, give her back and all will be good. So he wakes up in the morning, he gives Sarah, and he says, why did you do this to me? Why didn't you tell me anything? And over here, what's very interesting, first, one of the bigger differences that you notice is that in our story with Paro, when she's abducted, Avraham doesn't respond to Paro. He just leaves it. Here to Avimelech, he responds. He said, I was afraid that if you guys were going to kill me. So question one, why doesn't he respond to Paro? Why does he respond to Avimelech? You notice the difference over here? Very interesting difference. Another difference, how does the king react after the story's over? Paro, kisses him. Avimelech, he says, mi casa etu casa. You know what I mean? Mi country etu country. My country is your country. And hang out over here for as long as you need. Again, these are just a couple of differences. And Ora Hayim, my friends, today we're going to go into a depth of studying this episode of the abduction of Sarah. Okay, let's begin. And number one, he says, let's read and explain. First of all, we could see how modest Avraham and Sarah were with each other. That he didn't even notice how beautiful she was until now. He says, now I realize. And the Ora Hayim says, what brought Avraham now to start paying attention to her beauty? If now you realize, that means you started to stare and gaze at her beauty. What brought Avraham to do this? Achen, however, he explains, very simple. He was about to command Sarah that she should lie and say she's his sister. Right? And therefore, Sarah would say, wait, Avraham, if you're worried about them taking me, you're worried about them killing you, so what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Right? Why'd you bring me to this place, Avraham, and put me in danger? You understand? There's a conversation taking place between the husband and the wife. Right? If you're about to tell me that I'm your sister, right? That means that you're worried that they're going to take you. But if you're worried they're going to take me, why'd you bring me to the first place over here? Why are you putting me in harm's way? This is what Sarah is saying to Avraham. And therefore Avraham is answering her. He's saying, explaining. He's saying, actually, I never noticed how beautiful you are. Only now am I noticing it. If I would have known, Sarah, I would have never brought you here. 100%. I wouldn't put you in harm's way, because it's a lose-lose. Either they kill me and they take you, or they don't kill me and they take you anyways. But either way, they're taking you, Sarah. So why would I put you, my wife, in harm's way? So Avraham is explaining, I actually never paid attention to how beautiful you are. I never realized the depth of your beauty. If I would have known, I wouldn't have brought you down to Egypt. Okay? So now, that's step one. This explains why they came down. The question though is, but what brought him to pay attention to her beauty now? Why did he start to pay attention? Only now I'm realizing. But what made you realize? The reason he paid attention now, more than before, as he started getting closer to Egypt, he saw people that were very coarse, people that were very immoral. And he was told that the king takes pretty women. So he started to think to himself, one second, is my wife a pretty lady? Is my wife extremely beautiful? So he looked at his wife. You see over here, my friends, by the way, it's a different level. Of course, the halacha is a person has to know what his wife looks like. A person has to look at his wife. But you see, Avraham and Sarah, their love was that it was not based on something physical. Okay? The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avot that if your love is based on something physical, the moment the physical thing is gone, then the love fades. If I love you because of your looks, then what happens when the looks go away? What happens when the guy starts getting bold? Right? What happens when he starts putting on some weight? What happens if the guy starts losing money? What happens if the lady, right? What happens if these things go away? And that was the reason of the love. So the love is gone. Avraham, he started paying attention because he realized they're going now into a place that their only focus is looks. So he said, wow, okay, 1 second. Is my wife a threat? Is she a target? Is it something to be concerned about? Okay, fine. So now, slowly, he's explaining the thought process in Avraham's head. You understand? As they started getting closer to the city, he starts realizing that the people here are immoral and all they care about are looks. And they're going to actually, because they're very ugly over there, that the king, any pretty lady, the king's going to take. So he decides to start paying attention and he notices how beautiful Sarah is. And he says, by the way, Sarah, I now realize that you're beautiful and now I don't know what to do. Because I wouldn't have brought you here if I would have known that these people are perverts. And I also wouldn't have brought you here if I realized that you were so beautiful. Therefore, the only solution, he says to her, is that we need to make up this plan that you are my sister. Okay? Fine. Now, question, you're going to say, but Rabbi, if he now, fine. You know what they say? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So if you now know how beautiful she is, so then why later did he take her to Pelishtim? What's your excuse then? You want to say, nah, the guy was a tzaddik, he never knew what his wife looked like. Okay, fine, I'll buy it. But you only have that excuse once, right? You don't have two excuses. You can't use that 2 times. So he says, and this is, by the way, it's a point what he's saying here, it's going to explain many other differences and he'll keep coming back to this point. Eretz Pelishtim, later on, lo hayu ke'urot kol kach ke'Misraim. Their appearance wasn't as coarse as the Egyptians. Which answers another question. Over here he says, Sarah, wherever we go, I want you to say out loud, before even anyone asks you, he's my brother. He's my brother. Just nonchalantly drop it in every conversation you have with everybody. He's my brother, he's my brother, he's my brother. When they got to Pelishtim, he didn't tell her to say that. If someone asked, he said, she's my sister. But he didn't explicitly, proactively say, she's my sister. Why? But now you understand, he says. Because he had much more to worry about here in Egypt because of the people. But over there in Pelishtim, lo haya bet mehush, there wasn't such suspicion like the Egyptians, who were at the epitome of perversion and coarseness. And Sarah is very beautiful. Okay, fine. So now we're getting a little bit more color in the picture. Now what does he say to her? He says, very, very weird phrase. He says, now you have to ask a question. The very obvious question. I want you to try to think about the question. You, Avraham, you're worried that they're going to take her and kill you because you're her husband. So therefore, you're no longer her husband, right? So what is she to you? What should she be? Right? Let her be nothing. Just say, she's my friend. I actually just met her a few hours ago. We were on the same bus down here to Egypt. Why does Avraham have to say she's my sister? You understand the question? I get why you don't want her to be your wife. If she's your wife, they're going to kill you. You got to protect yourself. Got it. But option B should be, she's nothing to me. We're friends. Why? She's my sister. That's the next question. So he says, the pasuk says, Lema'an yitavli ba'avurech. Avraham says, I want to benefit. I want to receive something through this. I want to get good. Perush, he's saying, Tam she'ani metzaveh lomar achoti. The reason I'm saying you're my sister, and I'm not saying that I'm just your random friend, right? Ish nochrihu, he's just a stranger. I don't know the guy, right? We don't know each other. Why do you have to say she's my sister? He says the answer is, well, you could say he's her guardian, but more than that, lema'an yitav. He says, so I can receive. I want to get benefit. I want to benefit from this. If he's a stranger, why would they give Avraham any good just because of Sarah? Right? Why should he be rewarded on her account? Right? And that's also maybe why Avraham insisted that she say it and not just him. Because if he's saying it, maybe he's making up the story. He says, Sarah, you have to say that I'm your brother. Because once you say it, then they'll start rewarding me. Okay? Now again, sounds very weird. Avraham wants reward. He wants now money also. He wants to make some money off of his wife. What does that mean? It's very weird. So he explains. No. And that's, by the way, look at the pasuk. Lema'an yitav li ba'avurech, so that I could receive tov, good, because of you. V'hayta nafshi biglalech, and also so that I can live. Okay, so two things are going on over here. I want to get good, and I want to live. So what does that mean? He's explaining, tachlit hatova shemekaveh, the good that Avraham meant, I don't want just money to buy a Porsche. What he meant was, v'hayeta, I want to receive good because I need food. I want to be able to live. Remember, there's a famine. And if you're connected, if you have a lot of money, you could buy food. So Avraham says, that's why I want money. That's why I want good. Because I need to get food so that I can live in this time of famine. He said, so I could live, so that my soul can live. Okay? So opinion number one, interpretation number one of the Orah Hayim is that Avraham over here, he says to Sarah, we need to be related. If I'm your husband, they'll kill me. But if I'm your stranger, then they won't even care for me. So I need to be your brother so that they don't kill me, but that they also will benefit me. What do I want benefit for? So that I could have food, so that I could survive in this famine. That's all opinion number one. But look at this, my friends. And this is a beauty. Oh, dirtze, another meaning. Bedikduk, when he says, ba'avurech and biglalech. Look at this. Nitkaven lishnaim, Avraham Avinu over here has in mind two benefits that he wants from Sarah being his sister. Echad, lema'an yativu lo ba'avurachoto tova gashmit. Number one, he wants physical blessing. He wants physical things, like we said, so that he could benefit with food, so that he could eat and so that he could live. And number two, look at this. V'hayeta nafshi. You know what that means? So that my soul will live. He explains over here, look at this, my friends, the Orah Hayim is fantastic. He goes to Masechet Berachot to understand what did Avraham mean by this. When he says, Sarah, there'll be two benefits, physical and my soul will live. What does it mean, my soul will live? What does that mean, my soul will live? So he says, look at Masechet Berachot. Masechet Berachot says, remember Chana was the mother of Shmuel HaNavi. Before she had Shmuel, she was barren for many, many years. And we know she suffered and she cried and she prayed. And one of the things that she says in prayer is like this. She says to God, Imra'o tir'eh, if you will take note, if you will see the suffering of your maidservant. She says to God, if you will see my suffering. Right? But our rabbis notice, Ra'o tir'eh. She uses a double expression. My friends, please pay attention to this. She says to God, God, if you will see, Ra'o tir'eh, if you will see, and you will see. And our rabbis say, what does Chana mean by this double expression of God seeing her and God seeing her? And she's basically, Chana says to God, look at this, gutsy move. She says, God, you're going to see, and you're going to see. Imlo yafkida, if you don't see in a regular way that I need children and answer my prayer, God, she's saying, God, I'm forcing your hand. You will see. You could see your way or you could see my way. But you're going to see my pain and you're going to give me a child. Either you're going to give me a child your way and answer my prayer, Ra'o, or tir'eh, or you will see, and I'm going to force you to give me a child. How could she force God to give her a child? Al yedei shetelech v'tisater. I will go and seclude myself with another man. And what is that called? In the language of halacha, that's called a sotah. When a lady, her husband suspects her, so what is the law? She's brought to the temple, v'tibadek kesotah. She's checked with water. And if she is guilty, she swells up. And if she's innocent, v'nizre'ah zera, she is blessed with children. She says, God, I'm going to have a kid. Either you bless me now with a kid and you see that I need a child, or I will force you to see by going and secluding myself with a man and not doing anything and staying kosher and staying innocent. And then when the waters check me, I would have been vindicated, I will have been innocent, and I will be blessed with a child through the waters of Sotah. Kemokin. And this is exactly Chashav Avraham, what Avraham over here is trying to do. Ki al yedeh stirat ha'isha im ha'ish. When a lady secludes with somebody, vehi nekiya, and she's clean, Hashem yifkadena bebanim bedomin lo. The reward is not just children, but it's more than that. It's children that look like the husband. Because God has to make sure that the children look like the original husband. Because if they don't, then people will start thinking what? That she got pregnant from her lover. And really she's guilty. So to prove that she didn't get pregnant from her lover, God gets her child to look exactly like her husband. You understand? And this is Abraham's intention. Which, by the way, this is what happens to him. What happened? She goes with him, and afterwards she gives birth to Yitzchak. And what does the Pasuk say? The most important parasha, Toledot, my bar mitzvah parasha. Okay, what does it say over there? Ve'ele Toledot Yitzchak ben Avraham. These are the children of Yitzchak. And then it goes back and says, Avraham holidet Yitzchak. It says, by the way, Avraham had Yitzchak. And if you open up Rashi says, why is it telling me that Avraham had Yitzchak? Rashi says, because people started, the clowns, the Letzim started to say, I wonder if Sarah got pregnant from Avraham, or maybe she got pregnant from Avimelech. And therefore God made Avraham look exactly like his son Yitzchak, so that there's no confusion. Who's the father? The mother, you know who it is, it's Sarah. But who's the father? So people started saying it's probably Avimelech. She went with him last night. And God made sure that Yitzchak looked exactly like Avraham. Avraham holid et Yitzchak. Avraham looked exactly like Yitzchak. And therefore, Avraham Avinu, this was his intention. When he says, Sarah, first of all, lema'an yitavli ba'avurech. I want to benefit financially so that I can have food to live. And number two, v'hayeta nafshi. Now I also, besides for that, this whole plan was actually on purpose. Avraham is basically saying, I could have avoided this whole thing. We could have went somewhere else. But Avraham is saying to Sarah, I'm bringing you here on purpose because I want him to take you. It's like the Trojan horse. I want her to take you. I want the Paro to take you so that by suspecting you, you're going to be clean and blessed with children. V'hayeta nafshi, and my soul will live. What does that mean, my soul will live? I'll have a future. I'll have children. Bifkudat hazera, with children. Biglalech. What does it mean, biglalech? What does it mean, biglalech? Perush hadvarim, biglalech means hamidgalgelim, from the word galgal, circle. You know how rabbis say, biglal hadavar, if you give tzedakah, you'll be blessed. So on a simple level, it means biglal, because you give, you'll be blessed with more. But actually, our rabbis explain, biglal, make sure you give, because today you're up, but you never know. Tomorrow the guy may be on the bottom of the wheel of fortune. And we spoke about this one time, how a person should always make sure to give, because now that you could give, but maybe next time you're going to be the recipient. Okay? Why a second time with Avimelech? Hold on, Rohi Zuri, I'm getting to you. He's coming, he's working here. He's working. I understand. I wish I could do 2 times speed. We're going there. Very good. Okay, look at this. So, he wants 2 things. To live physically with food, and number 2, to have children. And this is a whole Sotah plan of how to get Sarah to be blessed with children. Vedavarze, here we go. And this was Husag etzlo. This objective of having a child was realized only after Bastira Shenistera im Avimelech. It was only realized after the second time that she went with Avimelech. Velo bapam hazot im Paro. It didn't work now. Why? Kisham lo haya hashad. Because here with Paro there was no suspicion. How come? Ki gersho me'arzo. Because he kicks Avraham out. Gila kilo asa davar, showing he didn't touch Sarah. Right? Because if he was with Sarah, he would want her nearby so that he could try to go for round 2. You understand? By kicking her away, it showed that he had no connection to her, and therefore there was no suspicion. But by Avimelech, you find that he said, stay around, hang around. Why do you want me to hang around? Must be because Sarah did something with you. You understand? So people were more suspicious over there. Or another reason, 2 times already gave her a reputation that she was secluded with a man. Happens 1 time, that's a mistake. Happens 2 times, like the Sotah. Right? It has to be that the husband warns her after already suspecting her once. So you needed 2 kinks to take her. And after the second time, then she was blessed with children. Shuv ba leyadi. By the way, he says, I got my hands on a book called Midrash Rabbah. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Over there it says Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God says, it says by the Sotah, Ve'im lo nitme'ah ha'isha. If the wife was not nitme'ah, if she's innocent, if she didn't become defiled, utorahi, and she's clean, v'niketa v'nizra azera, she will be proven innocent and she'll have children. And look at this. Ve'zo shenichnesa lebet paro ulbet Avimelech. And this lady who went into Paro's house, in Avimelech's house, ve'yatzta tehora, eno din shetipaked. Is it not fair that she should also be remembered? So says Ora Hayim, Baruch shekivanti. Thank God I was thinking on the right track, because after writing this, he says, I actually found exactly what I said in the Midrash Rabbah. Amazing that the Ora Hayim was able to come to all of this conclusions when he really died at the age of 47, by the way. Can you imagine? 47 years old, look what he accomplished. And he was able to even say, I got my hands on this book and I saw that what I said was actually written 1600 years before me. Baruch Hashem, I'm on the right track. Okay? Fine. Very nice. So that's another bit from the Ora Hayim of the idea of Sotah. Now, let's go to the conversation that Paro has with him afterwards. Now Paro, he's very upset. Avraham, you framed me. You made me take your wife. So there's a whole conversation here. What is the conversation? Let's see. So Paro calls Avraham and says, Lama and Lama. 2 lamas. Look at this. Right? Anyone know the book Lama Lama? Right? Lama Lama in pajamas. Okay? I had to read that to my kids many, many nights. Okay. So Vayikra Paro Avraham Vayomer. Paro calls Avraham and says, Lama lo higat ali. Why didn't you tell me that she's your wife? And Lama Amarta Ahoti, and why'd you say that she's your sister? So 2 questions here. Why'd you say she's your wife? And why'd you say she's your sister? Okay. Asks the Ora Hayim the obvious question. Lama kafala kushya shte pa'amim. Why is he repeating the question 2 times? Right? Just it's saying the same thing in 2 different ways. Right? Okay. Ulai, maybe he's saying 2 questions. Number 1, min hara'u haya lecha lahushli. Shema lo nodaki ishtecha v'kahena. First of all, you said nothing. That's a problem. You should have told me, by the way, Paro, she's my sister, she's my wife. So first of all, you didn't say anything, and that could get me in trouble because I took her and I could have committed a sin of adultery. So by you not saying anything, first of all, that's one thing that you did wrong. And number 2, not only didn't you say anything, but you even added more by saying she's your sister. Yeah? So you did 2 things wrong. Okay. But, look at this. Another explanation. Ta'am Paro, why is it that Paro kicks Avraham out and Avimelech asks her to stay? He says, Ki Paro liyot anashav ki'urim ushtufei zima. Paro knew his people, that they're very, very immoral, perverted. Hash ala davar, he suspected, she kashlu bo, he knew that his men, the men of his country, they wouldn't be able to hold themselves. They knew that they were going to try to grab Sarah and do something with her. And he didn't want his men to be affected, ve'yanshu, to get punished. Mashenkin Avimelech, the people were not so perverted. That's why Avimelech, by the way, asks Avraham, what brought you to lie and say she's your sister? He was so confused, because the people of his town are not so immoral that Avraham should think to protect his wife. So he was confused. But you don't find Paro saying, hey Avraham, why'd you say? He wasn't confused. He knew exactly why Avraham said it. It was a normal thing for Egyptians. They were in the epitome of znut, which is, by the way, just makes you appreciate how much Yosef Sadiq's test was. You understand? When Yosef went down to Egypt, who was he living with? He's living with such people that it was understood by the own king that the people are like this. So what happens over here? 1 second, what's going on with the video? Okay, so what's going on over here? Look what he says. He knew very well that Avraham was worried about death. You're in Sin City. You're in Egypt, my friend. And therefore, he doesn't say, Lama amarta ahoti. He doesn't begin and say, hey, why'd you say she was my sister? That is very clear why he said. But the first question, he says, Avraham, Lama lo higata li. Why don't you tell me, at least secretly, tell me she's your wife? If you're worried about everyone else, they're perverted, I get it. This is my people. This is the country that I have to deal with. What could I do? I'm sorry. But as far as me, why don't you tell me? Paro, at least in his own eyes, he knew that he's a straight guy. He's a clean guy. He's not going to do something ugly like that. Right? If you said Sarah's your wife, I wouldn't have touched her. So my question is not on my people. Avimelech was asking about everyone. Why'd you lie and say she's your sister? We're all clean over here. Paro was aware of the reality that the Egyptians are perverted. But at least me, I'm a tzaddik, Paro says. Why didn't you tell me? Man to man, one-on-one. By the way, Paro, Isha is my Ister say, right? My Ifway, right? Tell me and I won't touch her. You could trust me, Avraham, no? Right? And telling him will do one of two things, right? Or he'll protect him with men, bodyguards, no one touch him or his wife. Like he did later on when he kicked them out. He escorted them with bodyguards so no one should touch them. Or he would have just kicked them out immediately. But either way, he says, if you told me she's your wife, I would have figured out, I would have helped you, Avraham. So that's question one. Why don't you tell me? And then he adds, maybe you'll say, Avraham, you'll say to me, why should I tell you that she's my wife? Is it my obligation to walk around telling everyone I meet she's my wife? He says, no, you're right, you didn't have to. But the problem is that you said she's your sister. Once you say she's your sister, now I'm all confused. If you would have said nothing, so yeah, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to say. But now you say she's your sister. I got all confused. I thought she's permitted. I took her, so at least you should have came to me and told me secretly, by the way, she's my wife. And therefore, this is Paro's complaint to Avraham. Velo heshiv Avraham davar. And by the way, and with this we'll end for today, Avraham doesn't answer. He doesn't say, oh, I'll tell you. You know why? Kemoshe heshiv la'Avimelech. He answers Avimelech. Ki Avraham tamao haya shaya hoshed leParo atzmo. Because the truth is, Avraham suspected even the king. Paro's question to Avraham is, the only guy that you needed to worry about was me. Everyone else, you did a good thing by lying and saying she's your sister. But I want to know me. Why didn't you warn me? So what's Avraham going to say? Because I suspected you? It's not respectful to talk like that to the king. So therefore Avraham had to shut his mouth and not say anything. Avimelech, his question wasn't on him. Avimelech's question was on the people. So Avraham could say, listen, king, I love you, but your people, me and you both know that they, right? So that's why by Avimelech, Avraham was able to answer. But by the Paro, whose question was on himself, Avraham, he couldn't target the king. He couldn't talk straight to the king, how he felt about him. And therefore Avraham kept his mouth shut. And by the way, it could be Paro suspected this. Paro noticed that Avraham didn't answer anything because that's what was going on in his mind. And therefore, and therefore, he kicked him out. He says, yeah, that's what you think about me? Avraham, please get out of my country. Okay? This is how the Ora Hayim understands this whole episode with Avraham and Paro, and then later Avraham and Avimelech. Notice the slight nuances, and ultimately, this is why Avraham had to protect himself, and he didn't know about their perversion until he got there. If he would have known, he wouldn't have ever brought Sarah. But once he got there and then he found out, and then he looked at her and then he realized she's beautiful, and then he had to come up with this whole plan of saying she's his sister. And ultimately, Avraham also benefited from this because by being suspected. So my friends, if anyone ever accuses you of something, by the way, you should know that you are in an amazing opportunity of Hoshed Baksherim. If people suspect you, you are in a opportune moment of being able to pray. If someone accuses you of something that you're innocent of, you didn't do it. Of course you get upset. Of course you get defensive. Of course you get all hurt. Of course, that's how we are. We're human. But we have to also realize the amazing opportunity that has. The lady who's the Sotah, people suspect her, and she's clean. She didn't do anything. And look what she gets. She gets children. She gets all the bracha. And this is something that not only is the Sotah, but we see it, Sarah Imenu. She was the first Sotah ever was Sarah Imenu. Okay, my friends, let's stop over here. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.